10 years of marriage evaporated the moment he called her his soulmate. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply turned to my assistant and gave the order. Cancel his credit cards, revoke his medical insurance, and change the locks. He wanted a life of pure love? Fine. I was about to grant his wish. I sat at my vanity studying the woman in the mirror. At 35, the corners of my eyes were already etched with faint lines. They were the footprints of sleepless nights, of worrying about the company's ledger, about my mother-in-law's failing health, and about my husband's endless, costly research projects. Today, I had chosen a plum-colored silk dress, a deep shade, full of authority, matching my position in the family and the business world. Today was my 10th wedding anniversary with Julian. People always say that a wife's devotion never goes unrewarded. I had clung to that phrase for a decade. From being the pampered daughter of a wealthy Boston family, I had agreed to marry Julian, a poor university lecturer with a heavy family burden. Back then, my parents had opposed it with everything they had. My mother told me that marrying a poor man wasn't the problem. The problem was marrying into a family that didn't know the value of anything. But I was young. I believed in love, in kindness, and in Julian's intellect. So I turned a deaf ear to it all. I used my entire trust fund and my business acumen to build the empire we have today, dragging my husband's family out of the mud of poverty in the process. I opened a drawer and pulled out a deluxe red velvet box. Inside was a Patek Philippe watch I had ordered from Switzerland 6 months ago. Julian often complained that his old watch had a worn leather strap and that it didn't look elegant enough for lecturing or meeting partners. I remembered every word he said, every furrow of his brow. To me, Julian wasn't just my husband. He was the intellectual pride I had always worshipped. I was a businesswoman with the scent of commerce soaked into my skin, so I cherished the scholarly, noble air of an academic like him. The phone rang. It was Sarah, my assistant. "Ms. Sterling, everything is ready at the old campus diner in Harvard Square," she said. "The chef says he's prepared the pot roast exactly how you asked, with that old-school flavor." I smiled. "Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. I'm heading there now. Don't let Julian find out. I want it to be a surprise." I tucked the watch into my purse, my heart fluttering like it did in the early days of our romance. Instead of the high-end restaurants with candlelight and dim lamps that high society frequented, I had decided to celebrate our anniversary right where it all began, the old university diner. 10 years ago, our wedding reception was held there. We were so poor then, just a few tables with simple food. The bride and groom wore mud-stained shoes because it was pouring rain. But amidst that hardship, I would never forget Julian's gaze, full of gratitude and promises. He held my hand and swore in front of our friends, "Vivian, suffer with me now. When I succeed, I'll make it up to you 1,000 times over." I engraved that oath onto my heart. I didn't need him to compensate me with gold or silver. I just needed his unconditional love. But perhaps unconditional love is just a fairy tale we tell ourselves to justify the sacrifices we make. I drove my luxury car out of the brownstone's garage. This house was the sweat and tears of my last 10 years. Every brick, every tree in the garden had been tended by my own hands. I thought of Agnes, my mother-in-law, who had just escaped death thanks to the kidney I had searched everywhere for, spending millions to secure the operation. I thought of Becky, my capricious and wasteful sister-in-law, who asked me for money every month to buy designer bags and go clubbing. I protected them not because I had money to burn, but because I loved Julian. I wanted him to focus on his work without worrying about basic needs. The streets of Boston were busy at sunset, but my heart felt light. I imagined Julian's surprised face when he saw me appear at the old diner. Surely he would be moved. He had always been a nostalgic and sentimental man. The car moved through familiar streets, taking me back to the old university campus. The old sycamore trees were still there, silent witnesses to so many generations of students. I parked in a discreet corner. I fixed my dress and applied a little more red lipstick. I wanted to be radiant to show Julian that despite the passage of time and economic pressure, his wife still retained her beauty and charm. I stepped out of the car, and a soft evening breeze rippled my silk skirt. A nervous sensation took hold of my chest. I hadn't warned Julian. I only sent him a text saying I had a business dinner tonight and would be late, so he should eat without me. In reality, I had contacted an old janitor I knew, asking him to open the diner at that hour. Gift box in hand, I walked down the moss-covered cobblestone path leading to the diner. In my mind, scenes of our memories played on a loop. Back then, a $5 pot roast was the greatest luxury Julian could offer me. We shared every spoonful of broth. We gave each other the tenderest pieces of meat. How could that past of poverty be so beautiful and meaningful? I couldn't imagine that the place holding the most beautiful memories of my life would today become the tomb of my 10-year marriage. The wooden door of the diner, with its peeling paint, was ajar, casting a faint strip of yellow light. I smiled, thinking the janitor had already turned on the light waiting for me. But no, something wasn't right. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the familiar black Mercedes parked discreetly behind a hedge of withered oleanders. Was it the car I had given Julian last month to celebrate his 10-year defense? Why was his car here? Did he also remember our anniversary and want to surprise me? The idea comforted me a little. Maybe my husband and I were truly connected. I tiptoed closer, planning to scare him like in our mischievous student days. But as I got closer, the intuition of an experienced woman made my steps heavy. There was no music, no atmosphere of a party in preparation. Just a terrifying silence wrapping everything, broken occasionally by the whistling of the wind through the cracks in the door. I decided not to enter through the main door. I circled the building to the back entrance, which led to the kitchen. This was the path I used to sneak in to give Julian extra meal vouchers when he ran out of money at the end of the month. The rusty kitchen door was ajar. The smell of dampness from the old whitewashed walls hit my nose, mixed with a fragrance of unknown perfume. So sweet and penetrating it was cloying. And then I heard laughter. Not the joyful laughter of a group of friends, but the flirtatious giggles of a young woman interspersed with the deep, warm voice I had listened to for the last 10 years, my husband's voice. "You're naughty. Why summon me to this God-forsaken place?" "It's safer here, more intimate, honey. Besides, this place has a lot of memories. I want to create new memories with you, erase all the old and outdated ones." Julian's words were like a bucket of ice water thrown directly in my face, a chill that soaked me to the bone. I stood paralyzed, squeezing the red velvet box so hard my nails dug into my palm, causing sharp pain, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the knife wound that had just shattered my heart. Erase all the old and outdated ones. It turns out my 10 years of youth, 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of sharing sorrows and joys were nothing more to him than old things that needed to be deleted. I held my breath and pressed myself against the grease-stained wall, trying to hear every word. I needed to know who this woman was and to what extent my husband, the scholar and model spouse, had been corrupted. The darkness of the kitchen corner seemed to swallow me. But it was that same darkness that helped me see the true face of the man I had once worshipped. A clumsy and cruel play was about to lower its curtain. I hid behind the worm-eaten pine door that separated the kitchen from the main dining room. The narrow crack barely let my gaze pass, but it was enough to capture the entire scene inside. Under the yellowish light of an old filament bulb, Julian was sitting on one of those familiar blue plastic chairs, but he wasn't alone. In his lap was a thin young woman with long, loose black hair. She wore a white uniform shirt and an excessively short skirt, snuggling against my husband's chest. The hands I used to hold every night, the hands I had tended to for every scratch, were now caressing another woman's bare back. I felt a tightness in my chest, as if someone were strangling me. Blood rushed to my head, but the rationality of a battle-hardened businesswoman forced me to keep calm. I couldn't break down now. I had to see. I had to hear it all. "Julian." The girl's voice sounded syrupy and cloying, like sugar, but in my ears it sounded as rancid as rotting fish. "It's almost the deadline to pay tuition, and my mom back in the village is very sick. I don't know how I'm going to manage. I think I'll have to defer the semester." Julian hugged her tighter. His voice was full of a compassion and tenderness he hadn't directed at me in a long time. "Silly girl. With me here, why worry about money? You focus on studying. I'll take care of your mother's illness and the tuition. You are a talent. You are my muse. I won't let you be stained by the dust of the world. But where will you get the money? I heard your wife controls the finances very strictly. Does she know you're helping me? At the mention of me, Julian's voice changed suddenly. There was no longer tenderness, but a surprising resentment and contempt. Don't mention that old bitter woman. You kill the mood. What does she know besides money? And more money. All day with her head in the ledgers, calculating losses and gains. She is such a materialist person, so dry. Every time she opens her mouth, it's to talk about projects and contracts. By her side, I feel as suffocated as in a prison. I bit my lip until it bled. Old, bitter woman, materialist, dry. That materialist money bought the medicine for your mother, the car you drive, the house you live in, and even the doctorate title you hold. Those dry ledgers are the only thing that kept your family from starving and being despised by the world. The girl let out a giggle with a slightly triumphant tone. Well, she seems very capable to me. Besides, she takes good care of your family. I heard she even funds scholarships for our university. In fact, I'm receiving a scholarship from her company. Her words were like lightning striking my mind. A scholarship from my company. I narrowed my eyes, trying to see the girl's face better. Under the dim light, her oval face and big, innocent eyes started to look familiar. Haley. It was Haley, the senior philology student, for whom I myself had signed the decision to grant the scholarship for merit and financial hardship, valued at $10,000 earlier this year. I remembered it clearly because in her file she had written a moving story about her humble family background but great determination. When I handed her the award, she took my hand with teary eyes and said, "Thank you, Ms. Sterling. You are the benefactor of my life. I will follow your example to become a successful woman." It turns out she was following my example by stealing my husband. She used my own money to dress up, go shopping, and then used that false appearance of innocence to seduce her benefactor's husband. The brazenness of this situation far exceeded my imagination. Julian let out a mocking laugh, stroking Haley's hair. Her money is also my money. You think she's so brilliant? Without my moral support, without me taking care of internal and external relations, how could she earn money peacefully? She is just a money-printing machine. But you, Haley, you are the soul, the true love of my life. You are pure, kind, you understand poetry, music, art. You understand the concerns of an intellectual like me. She, when she comes home, only smells of money, of expensive and cloying perfumes. It gives me nausea just to smell it. Nausea. Those words echoed in my head. The expensive perfume I wear is because you once said it was elegant. Who do I kill myself working for? I looked at the gift box in my hand. The gleaming Patek Philippe seemed to mock me. My sincerity, my 10 years of love, were now being compared by the man I shared my life with to a gold-digging student and trampled without mercy. The anger inside me didn't explode like a raging fire. Instead, it turned cold and sharp as ice. I felt pity for myself and disgust for the two performing their romantic farce in there. All the affection, all the respect I felt for Julian vanished completely in that instant. I took a deep breath, swallowing my tears. The Vivian of before, the naive student who believed in a cottage and two hearts, was dead. Now, standing here, was Vivian Sterling, the CEO of Ancora Group. I would not let anyone trample on my pride. I gently placed the gift box on the dusty kitchen counter. I didn't need it anymore. I fixed my hair, smoothed my dress. I would enter there not to make a jealous scene like a vulgar woman, but to teach them a lesson about the price of betrayal. I stepped forward and kicked the wooden door open hard. The dry, thunderous sound shattered the intimate atmosphere inside. The noise made the adulterous couple jump. Haley let out a stifled scream and pushed Julian away in a hurry while clumsily fixing the collar of her unbuttoned shirt. Julian, for his part, had a face pale as death, eyes wide, staring at the door as if he had seen a ghost. I stood there on the threshold, my shadow casting long over the old tile floor. My gaze was icy, sweeping over the two trembling like rats in a sewer lit by a spotlight. "Vivian," Julian's voice trembled, stuttering without being able to form words. What? What are you doing here? I didn't answer immediately. I walked in calmly. The sound of my heels against the tiles was regular and firm, like a judge's gavel about to pass sentence. I went straight to the plastic table. I pulled out a chair opposite them and sat down, crossing my legs with the same elegance and assurance as if I were in the boardroom. Are you very surprised? I sketched a smile I knew was more terrifying than crying. Isn't today our 10th wedding anniversary? I came to reminisce about old times, and look what I found. I stumble upon a most entertaining play. Haley had already recognized me. Her face was livid, drained of blood. She lowered her head quickly, wringing her hands, and hid timidly behind Julian. Ms. Sterling, I'm sorry. Shut up. My voice was a whisper, but with enough authority to silence her. I haven't given you permission to speak. I turned to Julian, the man whose tie I had knotted with affection that very morning before he went to work. Now, seeing his disheveled appearance, sweating profusely from fear, I only felt deep contempt for his cowardice. What were you saying a moment ago? I tilted my head, pretending to think. Old bitter woman, materialist, dry, who only understands money. Julian, for the last 10 years, this old woman has supported your entire family, from food and shelter to your fake honor. You say my money disgusts you, yet you accept it punctually every month? The car you drive, the suits you wear, even the underwear you have on. Is there anything that wasn't bought with my nauseating money? Julian, after the initial panic, seemed to recover a bit of composure. The wounded pride of someone who considers himself an intellectual awoke. He jumped up, fixing his clothes, trying to regain his usual air of dignity. Don't think that because you have money you can come give me life lessons, Julian growled, his face reddening. You were spying on me. You hired someone to follow me, didn't you? I knew it. Living with you is like being in a prison. You never respect my privacy. I burst out laughing, a bitter laugh that echoed in the empty room. Privacy? You call having an affair with a student and using your wife's money to support your mistress' privacy? Julian, you're a doctor. You're a university professor, and your logic is worse than a 3-year-old's. I don't need to spy on you. Heaven has eyes, darling. I came here to give you a surprise. But the surprise you gave me is too big. I can't swallow it. I directed my gaze to Haley, who was still huddled behind Julian. And you, Haley, brilliant student, example of overcoming adversity, I emphasized every word. You receive my scholarship, accept my sponsorship, and pay me back by sleeping with my husband. Is that the morality you've learned in life? Haley suddenly raised her head, eyes full of tears. A look that would make any man want to protect her, but only produced disgust in me. Ms. Sterling, don't insult me. Professor Cross and I are together for true love. We have a spiritual connection. I don't need your money. I love him for who he is. What great true love, I applauded sarcastically. You don't need money. And who was complaining about poverty a moment ago, asking for tuition money? Who asked for money to cure her mother in the village? Do you take me for a fool? If Julian were a DoorDash driver, a starving laborer, would you have a spiritual connection with him? Or did you fixate on his professor title and the shiny Mercedes he drives? Julian, seeing his little mistress cornered, stepped in to protect her, looking at me with fury. Shut up! Don't come judging Haley with your fishwife manners. She is 1,000 times purer and holier than you. Look at yourself, always talking about money. Have you ever stopped to understand what I need, what I think? Haley gives me inspiration. She makes me feel like a real man, not like a kept man, which is how I feel by your side. Kept man. I stood up to face Julian directly. I wasn't as tall as him, but my aura in that moment made him take a step back. So you finally admit you're a kept man? Very well. If you are so sick of this suffocating life, so sick of this wife who smells of money, then let's liberate each other. Tomorrow I will file for divorce. You and you. True love. Go get ready to enjoy a life without the smell of money. Let's see if your noble souls are edible. Having said that, I turned and walked away, not deigning to look at the astonished faces I left behind. but just as I reached the door, I saw two familiar figures running inside. It was Agnes and Becky, the in-laws in full force. The play, it seemed, hadn't ended. The most exciting act had just begun. Agnes and Becky appeared in the doorway, impeccably dressed and perfumed. They had probably also come to attend the supposed anniversary party I had prepared with such care. But instead of a congratulatory smile, what they found was the scene of me confronting Julian and Haley in an atmosphere charged with gunpowder. Seeing Haley hiding behind her son, Agnes's gaze wavered slightly. I knew perfectly well that Haley wasn't a stranger to her. Once, I had seen a message from Haley asking my mother-in-law about her health in a very familiar way. It turns out they had been meeting in secret. The only fool kept in ignorance was me. I looked directly at Agnes and greeted her with biting irony. "Mom! Becky! You arrived just in time! Come in and see the wonderful play your dear son and brother is performing!" Before Agnes could say anything, Julian stepped forward, completely changing his tone, adopting an attitude of an aggrieved victim. "Mom, look at her. She came here to cause a scandal, to insult me and Haley. She thinks because she has money she can trample on this whole family. I can't take it anymore." Becky, my sister-in-law, with her hair dyed a gaudy blonde, shot me a sideways glance and ran to her brother's side. "Vivian, what's with all the fuss? My brother is a university professor, a person with status. Have a little respect for his image. If there's a problem, it's discussed at home, behind closed doors. Why air dirty laundry in public?" I burst out laughing, a cold laugh that echoed throughout the room. Respect for his image? Ask your brother if he cares about his image when he brings his mistress to this very diner to frolic. Look closely. This is Haley, the student I sponsor with a scholarship. Your brother is hooking up with the very person who is in debt to his wife. Does that seem very honorable to you? Agnes finally entered with slow steps. She showed neither surprise nor anger toward her son. On the contrary, she looked at me with an expression of reproach. The same look I had received for 10 years every time I didn't fulfill her wishes. "Vivian, as a woman, you have to know how to be patient. That a man has several women is something normal. If Julian goes out to have a little fun, it's just to release work stress. If as a wife you don't know how to keep your husband and let him look for happiness outside, the fault is yours. You can't blame anyone else." I stood petrified. My ears buzzed at my mother-in-law's sick logic. I, the devoted daughter-in-law who had sold my own mother's jewelry to pay for her medical treatment. Now, in her eyes, I was just a woman who didn't know how to keep her husband. "How can you say that, Mom?" I replied with a restrained voice. "I have sacrificed everything for this family, and in return I receive this blatant betrayal. Who took care of you when you were sick? Who paid Becky's debts? Where did the money come from for the big, beautiful house you live in?" Agnes pouted and waved her hand as if shooing a fly. Come on, don't bring up the subject of money to throw it in our faces, as if your money were so important. My family, although poor, has principles and values. We value affection, not money like yours. Julian is a genius, an outlier. He needs a wife who understands him, with whom he has harmony, who supports him, not a huckster who only knows how to calculate. Haley, seeing she had allies, came out from behind Julian, eyes full of tears. "Mrs. Agnes is right. I love Professor Cross very much. He feels lonely in his own home. Ms. Sterling, please let him go. We truly love each other. Please give us your blessing." I looked at the 3 shameless faces in front of me. A traitorous husband, an ungrateful mother-in-law, and a brazen mistress. They had united against me, using arguments of false morality to attack me. Suddenly, I realized my mistake. The biggest mistake of my life wasn't marrying a poor man, but marrying a family of ungrateful wretches. Julian, encouraged by the support of his mother and mistress, grew even bolder, pointing his finger at me. "Did you hear that? Everyone sees how irrational you are, only you don't realize it. You always think you're the best, that you're doing my family a favor. I'm sick of your condescending attitude. Haley is the one who understands me, who values my worth as a person. She loves me for being an ordinary man without caring about fame or fortune. That is true love. True love without caring about fame or fortune. I wanted to laugh in his face. Let's see how long that true love would last if I cut off all financial aid. I took a deep breath, recovering the cold calm proper of a businesswoman. I didn't need to argue with people who weren't on my intellectual level. All right, I said with an icy voice. If you despise my money so much and value affection and nobility so much, I will grant your wish. Mom, Becky, remember your words well today. Never regret them. And you, Julian, you say Haley loves you for who you are, without caring about material things, right? Perfect. Cling to that belief. I grabbed my purse, straightened up, and lifted my head. I'm leaving here, not as a loser running away, but as a queen shaking off the parasites that have attached themselves to her. We are done here. See you in court. I walked out the door, leaving behind the looks of hatred and Haley's triumphant smile. Did she think she had won? She had just stepped into hell without knowing it. Barely out of the diner, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. It was Agnes. She lunged at me, blocking my path, her face flushed with anger. Stop! Where do you think you're going? You cause all this scandal and leave as if nothing happened? I stopped and looked at her with unprecedented coldness. Before, every time she raised her voice, I lowered my head and apologized to keep family peace. But today, that patience had died along with my marriage. Where I go is my business. You no longer have any right to interrogate me. Agnes glared at me and pointed her finger. How dare you speak to your mother-in-law like that, spoiled brat? Do you think because you have money you can do whatever you want? I'll tell you one thing. My son is right to leave you. A woman like you, who only knows how to make money, who neglects her husband and doesn't understand the obedience a wife owes her spouse, not even dogs would want you. Becky also came running and joined her mother. That's right. Look at yourself. Old and ugly, always with that bitter face. Haley is young, pretty, and sweet. It's normal for my brother to fall in love with her. You should look in the mirror and be self-critical instead of blaming others. I looked at the two women in front of me with a feeling of absolute contempt. Were these the people I had cared for with such dedication for 10 years? I remembered the sleepless nights at the hospital when Agnes suffered heart attacks. I remembered the times Becky called me crying in the middle of the night because creditors were harassing her and I had to go pay her debts. I had considered them my family, but it turns out, in their eyes, I was nothing more than a cash cow to be milked, an emotionless ATM. Enough! I shouted with a voice so firm that both fell silent instantly. You call me old, ugly materialist. Agreed. Let's see how many days you can live with your nobility without the money of this old, ugly materialist. Agnes pouted with disdain. Bah! Don't try to scare us. Without your money, my son is still a doctor, a prestigious university professor. His salary is more than enough to support the whole family. Do you think without you we'll starve? Doctor? Professor? I let out a bitter laugh. Do you know how much your son earns as a professor? $2,000. $2,000 a month, lady. That amount isn't even enough to buy a bottle of your vitamin supplements, nor for your daughter to buy a dress. Do you think the trips to Europe, the designer clothes, the luxury meals you enjoy come from his salary? Becky straightened up and retorted. Don't lie. My brother has scientific research projects that give him millions. He told me so himself. Don't try to fool us. Projects? I shook my head, disgusted by their ignorance. Those projects are 100% funded by my company. It was I who put up the money to buy him a reputation. Now that I withdraw the funding, the project will be canceled immediately. You'll see. Agnes seemed to waver for a moment, but still tried to maintain her false pride. You wouldn't dare. If you do that, you'll be ruining your husband's life. Don't be so cruel. Cruel? I looked her straight in the eye. Compared to how you treated me today, what I'm going to do is downright merciful. You chose to side with that tramp, insult me, and trample on my effort. Don't blame me for being ruthless. I didn't want to waste more words on them. I turned and walked straight to my car. Agnes tried to lung at me to grab me, but I slammed the door shut. Through the soundproof glass, I saw her screaming and insulting, face disfigured by rage. Becky, beside her, was stomping her feet with an expression of frustration. I started the car and sped off, passing them as if they were strangers. In the rearview mirror, the images of my in-laws grew smaller until they disappeared. I didn't cry. My tears were too valuable to shed for those who didn't deserve them. The car flew down the highway. I opened the window so the night wind would dry the cold sweat on my forehead. My mind was clearer than ever. The pain had passed, giving way to a cold and precise calculation. I picked up the phone and dialed my faithful assistant's number. "Sarah, it's me, Vivian." "Yes, Ms. Sterling, I'm listening." "How was the anniversary party? Was Mr. Cross surprised?" "Very much so." Sarah laughed bitterly. "But we'll talk about that later. Now listen carefully to my instructions and execute them immediately." "Yes, tell me, I'm listening." Sarah's voice turned serious upon noticing the strangeness in my tone. "First, contact the bank immediately and request the blocking of all additional credit cards in the names of Julian Cross, Agnes Cross, and Becky Cross. The reason is a request from the primary cardholder. Do it right now." "Block them all? But isn't Mr. Cross on a business trip?" "No, he—" Sarah was about to ask more, but stopped. "Don't ask questions. Block them immediately." "Yes, doing it right now." "Second," I continued with a firm voice, "call the Beacon Hill Property Management and ask them to cut all internet and cable services. At the same time, contact the electric and water companies and request temporary suspension of service because the owners will be away for a long time." "Cut the lights and water? But Mrs. Agnes and Becky are still in the house, aren't they?" "It's not their house anymore. That house is in my name. It is a separate asset from before the marriage. What I want to do with it is my right. You just follow my orders." "Yes, ma'am." "Understood." Third, draft a statement immediately to withdraw funding from Dr. Julian Cross's research project, Application of Folklore in Modern Life. The reason is breach of contractual clause regarding the ethics of the lead researcher. Send this statement to the dean's office at the university and a copy to Julian tomorrow morning. "Ms. Sterling, that's very serious. If we withdraw funding suddenly, Mr. Cross could be sanctioned, even fired." "That is exactly what I want," I said clearly. "He used my money to keep his mistress in the university itself, humiliating me publicly. I'm going to take everything I've given him." There was a silence of a few seconds on the other end of the line, and then Sarah's voice sounded full of determination. "Understood, Ms. Sterling. I will execute it immediately. Are you okay?" "I'm perfectly fine. Thanks, Sarah. Oh, one more thing. Contact Mass General Hospital and cancel the appointment for Mrs. Agnes Cross's kidney transplant next week. Tell them the family has not been able to raise the funds. Request the withdrawal of her file." This time, Sarah was truly shocked. "Ms. Sterling, that's a matter of life and death. Mrs. Agnes has been waiting for that kidney every day." I gripped the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. "I know, but they trampled on my kindness. They said I only used money to buy affection. Well, I'll show them that without my money they can't even keep their lives. Do it." I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. A feeling of satisfaction mixed with bitterness invaded me. I never thought I would become so ruthless, but they themselves had forced me to become this person. I remembered Agnes's words. "My family, although poor, has principles and values." Principles and values? A mother-in-law who defends her son's infidelity? A sister-in-law who insults her sister-in-law? And a whole family that unites to harass the woman who has supported them? I laughed at those principles. The car entered the luxury complex of the Seaport District. I didn't go back to the Beacon Hill brownstone. That place was now contaminated by the breath of traitors. I had a penthouse here, which I had bought secretly 2 years ago, intending to use it as a quiet refuge when I was tired. Now it would be my fortress, the place where my new life would begin. I parked in the garage and went up the private elevator. Watching the numbers on the panel climb to the 50th floor, I knew the real battle had just begun. This night would be very long for them. When their credit cards were declined, when the brownstone went dark from the power cut, when their last hope of life was extinguished, they would understand the price of betrayal. The first ray of sun of the new day pierced the thick curtains, illuminating the spacious but cold living room. I had spent the night awake. I got up, went to my office, and turned on the computer. Sarah's emails with the reports had arrived at 3 in the morning. All my orders had been executed. The utilities cut notifications sent, and most importantly, the email from the hospital confirming the cancellation of the surgery. I stared at the words cancellation confirmation on the screen. I clicked the button to approve the document. A soft click, but with the weight of an indirect death sentence. I wasn't killing her. I was just taking back the life I myself had gifted her. I picked up the phone and called my private security team. Sergio, it's Vivian. Good morning, Ms. Sterling. How can we help you? I want you to send your men to the Beacon Hill brownstone right now. Your mission is to change all the locks and reinstall the fingerprint security system. Only I and my children will have access. Do not allow entry to absolutely anyone else, neither my husband nor my mother-in-law. Understood, ma'am. And what do we do with their belongings? Collect all their personal things, pack them in cardboard boxes and leave them outside, next to the door. As for valuables like paintings, antiques, vehicles, if they don't have documents proving they own them, leave them all inside the house. We'll get on it immediately. And the Mercedes with the license plate? That car is in my company's name. Have someone drive it to the company parking lot and seal it. If anyone objects, call the police and let it be resolved according to the law. I hung up, feeling a surge of energy running down my back. I was no longer the submissive wife. I was the master of the game. I put on an office suit. I applied makeup carefully to hide the dark circles. Today, I had another important meeting. A meeting with the most important people in my life, my 2 small children. I drove to the international school where my children studied. Leo, 10, and Mia, 8. They were my most precious treasure. I asked permission at the school to pick them up early. Seeing me, they both ran to hug me. Mom, you came so early today? Where's Dad? Asked Leo. His intelligent eyes scrutinized me. Dad is on a work trip, honey. Today Mom and you are going to get ice cream, and then Mom has something to tell you. I took them to their favorite ice cream shop by the Charles River. Seeing the kids eat ice cream with such innocence squeezed my heart. How was I going to tell them their father was a traitor? No, I wouldn't sow hate in their minds. Leo, Mia, I started softly. If one day Dad and Mom no longer live together, who would you like to live with? The kids stopped eating and looked at me. Mia, my sensitive daughter, had teary eyes. Mom, did you and Dad fight? I don't want you to separate. I hugged her. I'm sorry, Mia. Mom and Dad don't get along anymore. But whatever happens, we will always love you very much. Leo looked straight into my eyes. I know Dad has someone else. I froze. How? How do you know? I see him smile alone while writing texts. Once I asked for his phone to play and saw a message from a girl calling him my love. Dad had her saved as Haley, student. And what do you think about that? I asked with a trembling voice. I hate Dad, Leo said firmly. He never plays with us. He's always busy. When he comes home, he yells at us. Only Mom takes us to school, plays, helps with homework. Dad always lies. Mia also sobbed. I also want to live with Mom. Grandma always scolds me and tells me I'm useless just like my mother, and Aunt Becky always bothers me and takes my toys. I'm very scared of them. Hearing my children's words, I felt my heart break into 1,000 pieces. I had tried to protect them, but the toxicity of my husband's family had seeped into their souls long ago. It's okay. I wiped my tears and smiled with determination. I promise you, from now on, Mom will protect you. No one will hurt you again. We're moving to a new house, just the 3 of us. Yes! They both said in unison and threw themselves into my arms. My biggest worry had dissipated. My children had chosen me. I left the kids with my parents for a few days to have my hands free to fix the disaster at the brownstone. With my family as support and my children as motivation, I felt stronger than ever. I drove back to my penthouse ready for the grand show that was about to begin at Beacon Hill at 5 in the afternoon. According to the security report, Agnes had returned from playing cards at 4:30. Her habit was to take a taxi to the door and ring the bell insistently, but today the script had changed. Agnes got out of the car and started ringing the bell non-stop. A minute passed. 2, 5, the heavy wrought iron gate remained closed. She started shouting, Where are you, useless people? Are you all dead or what? Only silence responded. The taxi driver demanded payment. Agnes rummaged in her purse and took out the additional credit card I had given her, handing it to the driver. The driver swiped the card. Beep. Transaction denied. The card gives an error, lady. How error? My daughter-in-law just put thousands of dollars on that card. Try again, growled Agnes. Same result. Look, don't waste my time. If you don't have money, have someone from your house come out to pay. Agnes, scared, called Becky, but her phone was off. She called Julian, no answer either. In the end, she had to take off the gold ring she was wearing and give it to the taxi driver. Take this for now. Tomorrow I'll buy it back. The driver took the ring and left, leaving Agnes standing in front of the closed door. She tried to put her finger on the fingerprint sensor. Beep, 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 red light. Data non-existent. At that moment, Sergio, the head of the security team, came out. Who are you looking for, ma'am? I'm the owner of this house. Open the door right now. And who are you? Sorry, ma'am. The owner is Ms. Vivian Sterling. Ms. Sterling has given orders not to allow entry to strangers. I beg you to leave. I'm her mother-in-law. Are you crazy? Call Vivian right now. Ms. Sterling is not home, and according to the authorized list, your name is not on it. We have packed your belongings and left them in that corner. Please take them. Agnes looked at the cardboard boxes piled on the sidewalk. She was furious and lunged at the guard, but Sergio pushed her aside. Humiliated, Agnes sat on the ground and began to cry and scream. But in this rich neighborhood, no one cared about an old woman's tantrum. At 7 p.m., Becky returned from partying, drunk. Seeing her mother on the boxes, she slurred, "Mom, why are you sitting there? The mosquitoes are eating me." Your dear sister-in-law kicked us out on the street. She changed the locks, canceled the cards. Becky sobered up instantly. She pounded on the door. Vivian, come out right now. This house belongs to my brother. Sergio gave her the same cold explanation. Becky took out her phone to call friends to beat up the guards, but she received a text from the bank. Card blocked. Then a text from the bar owner. Honey, your card didn't go through. We kept your Chanel bag as collateral. Becky screamed in despair. Now, without a cent, she began to understand helplessness. But the biggest blow was yet to come. Agnes's phone rang. It was the hospital. Tell me, doctor, you have the kidney, right? Good afternoon, Mrs. Cross. We are calling to inform you of the cancellation of your kidney transplant surgery. The financial guarantor, Ms. Vivian Sterling, has requested to withdraw the file and suspend payment. Please come to the hospital to process your discharge. The phone fell from Agnes's hands. She collapsed, pale as a corpse. Her only hope of life had just been snatched away by me. Mom, what's wrong? She killed me. Vivian canceled the hospital expenses. I was in my penthouse enjoying a steak dinner when the phone rang. It was Becky. I put it on speaker. Tell me, sis. Bitch, how dare you cancel my mother's operation? Do you want her to die? Open the door right now or I'll kill you. I sipped my wine calmly. Becky, watch your language. I haven't killed anyone. I just stopped giving money. Your mother's life is your responsibility and your brother's, isn't it? Why blame me, a stranger? You know perfectly well we don't have money. Oh, really? I thought your family had principles and values, that your brother was a genius. How come he doesn't have money to cure his mother? What have you lived on all these years, air or this old materialist's money? I'll call Julian to settle the score with you. Great. Tell him to bring his true love to save his mother. Let's see if love can be operated on to transplant a kidney. 5 minutes later, Julian called. Vivian, what the hell are you doing? Do you dare kick my mother and sister out on the street? Do you have a heart? Julian, calm down. Didn't you say you felt suffocated like in a prison by my side? I'm liberating you. You should thank me. What you're doing is illegal. That house is marital property. Marital property? Julian, that brownstone was left to me by my grandparents. It's solely in my name. Have you forgotten the prenup? Assets acquired before marriage are separate. Who I let live in my house is my decision. Very well. I'm coming over right now. Come, I'll wait for you here, and don't forget to bring your little mistress. Half an hour later, a taxi with Julian and Haley stopped abruptly. Julian got out furious, Haley following him timidly. I watched everything via the security camera on my iPad. The picture of his family was pathetic. Agnes groaning on a cardboard box, Becky dirty-faced, Julian disheveled. He started banging on the gate. "Vivian, open the door! Come out and talk like a civilized person!" I activated the microphone. "I'm not there, so don't bother knocking. I'm in a place where there isn't the nauseating smell of betrayal. See you tomorrow in court. Tonight, enjoy the fresh air." "Ah, by the way," I continued. "Julian, I assume you received the email from the university. Your project is out of funding, and you, Haley, your scholarship has also been revoked. Tuition is on you." Haley broke down crying. "Julian, what are we going to do? I don't have money." Julian turned to hug Haley, but in his look there was no longer confidence, but deep despair. For the first time, Dr. Julian Cross experienced the helplessness of a man who has nothing. The next morning, I drove back to the Beacon Hill brownstone. The scene looked like a battlefield. Agnes was curled up on cardboard. Julian and Haley were sitting on the curb, exhausted. I honked the horn long and shrill. They jumped. I rolled down the window, took off my sunglasses. "Good morning, everyone. How was the night under the stars? Romantic?" Julian lunged at the car. "Vivian, come down right now. My mother is dying." I got out, surrounded by security. "Torture you? You have legs. You could look for a motel." "Oh, right. No money." Haley moaned. "Ms. Sterling, please, let Mrs. Agnes into rest." "Shut up. You were the one who destroyed this family. You used my money to buy bags and seduce my husband, and now you come with remorse?" I threw a thick dossier through the bars. "Look, these are the statements of your expenses with the card Julian opened for you secretly. $3,000 on a Gucci bag, $1,500 on a resort. In total, almost $30,000. Agnes and Becky lunged to pick up the dossier. "You used my son's money to buy designer bags? When I asked for medicine money, he always made excuses." Agnes yelled at Haley. "Bitch!" Becky screamed. "I asked Julian for $100 and he scolded me." "No, Professor Cross bought it for me," Haley stammered. "Keep tearing each other apart," I interrupted. "This morning, my lawyer will file the divorce suit. As you committed adultery and misappropriated marital assets, I will demand the division of property, and the bad news is, with these proofs, you will leave empty-handed. Enjoy your last moments as a professor, because very soon you're going to be very famous." That same afternoon, Mr. Stone, my lawyer, met with Julian. I didn't go. "Here is the divorce suit," Mr. Stone said. "My client requests unilateral divorce. Full custody of the children. No alimony. The houses are separate property. The Mercedes belongs to the company." Julian hit the table. "Absurd. I want half. That house is worth millions." Mr. Stone took out a financial table. "In the last 10 years, your income was $250,000. Your expenses and the money Ms. Sterling invested in your projects sum to over $1.5 million. You owe my client $1.25 million. But she gave it voluntarily. If you want to go to trial, we will publish all proofs of your adultery, photos in hotels. If this reaches the university, your career will end immediately. Sign the mutual agreement divorce and you'll keep a minimum of dignity without the debt, or go to trial and lose everything." Haley whispered, "Julian, sign. If you lose your job, how will we live? We'll start from zero." Julian signed. "Take it and leave. Tell Vivian I gift her her freedom." Mr. Stone smiled. "Mrs. Sterling sends her thanks to Mrs. Haley for illuminating her on true love. She wishes you happiness in your humble cottage." Julian and Haley left the cafe. It was drizzling. "Where do we go now?" asked Haley. "To pick up my mother and sister, then look for a rental room." "A room? Why not an apartment?" "With what money? I only have $100 in cash." They found a room in a cramped basement in Revere. It smelled damp. Agnes covered her nose. "My God, what is this pigsty?" "Shut up already!" Julian shouted. "We have a roof. If you want luxury, go beg Vivian." That night, they slept squeezed on an old mattress. Julian touched the divorce agreement in his pocket. He had signed it with pride, but now, faced with hunger. That pride was useless. The next morning, the police called me. Julian had reported me for misappropriation. I went to the station with the property deed and the prenup. The officer told him, "Mr. Cross, the house is Ms. Sterling's exclusive property. She has the right to decide who lives there." "But our things." "I packed them. You refused to take them," I intervened. Julian left, humiliated. Back at the rental, Becky screamed, "Where is my mink coat? My Hermes bag?" "I donated them to charity," I had said. That afternoon, Julian was summoned by the university dean. "Mr. Cross, Ancora has withdrawn funding due to ethical breach. Also, we received an anonymous complaint with photos of you and student Haley using funds for personal expenses. The university has decided to suspend you. You must return the $20,000 advance." Julian walked out, soul-crushed. In the parking lot, a repo agent took his Mercedes keys. Students pointed and whispered, "Look, the kept man lost his car." June. Boston was burning under a heat wave. The basement was an oven. Agnes lay on the mattress, swollen and groaning. "Water!" Agnes yelled. Haley, doing her nails, replied, "Get it yourself. I'm exhausted." Becky grabbed Haley's hair. "Who do you call old? Ungrateful?" Julian arrived from his DoorDash shift. "Shut up! I made $12 today." "Only that?" Becky pouted. "Get a job then," Julian snapped. The hell on earth intensified. Haley mocked Julian. "I thought you were a great doctor. Turns out you're a miserable delivery guy. I should have hooked up with the baker." "Shut up, you gold digger!" Julian smashed a plate. Agnes threw a pillow at Haley. "You brought ruin to my family." Haley pushed Agnes. Becky attacked Haley. They rolled on the floor. Haley left that night, only to return 2 weeks later, claiming she was pregnant. "It's yours. Marry me." "Abort it," Julian said coldly. "I don't have money to feed it." "You are not human!" Haley screamed. The cruelty shattered Haley's mind. She didn't fight back physically this time. She snapped. Her eyes glazed over, staring past Julian at a wall of damp concrete as if it were a window overlooking the ocean. She began to laugh, a hollow, terrifying sound. "We just need to set the table, Julian. The guests are arriving at the villa." She started arranging trash on the floor as if it were fine china. "Haley, stop it," Julian muttered, scared. "Shh, the baby is sleeping in the master suite," she whispered to a bundle of dirty rags. Agnes watched in horror as Haley began to scream at invisible servants. The neighbors pounded on the ceiling. Police sirens wailed in the distance. When they broke down the door, they found Haley dancing in the center of the filth, completely detached from reality, while Julian sat in the corner, head in hands, the ruin of his life absolute. Haley was taken away to a psychiatric ward, screaming about her true love and her castle. Agnes suffered a massive stroke from the stress and died in the ambulance. Becky fled the state to escape the debts. 3 years later, I stand on the balcony of my new summer home in Martha's Vineyard, breathing the pure sea air. The breeze stirs my hair, now cut short in a bold style. I sold the Beacon Hill house, filled with painful memories. My business has prospered, expanding across the country. Leo and Mia play in the sand. They never mention their father protecting me. I sip my chamomile tea, feeling an incredible peace. I have weathered the storm, and I have learned to let go. Now I live for myself, radiant and proud, like a sunflower that always looks toward the sun. The past is closed. Freedom is the true value of my life.